Hello, Radiant Leo. If you're hearing this, it's not random, it's because you were meant to. Stop. Something is calling you not from your phone, but from the core of your soul. And if you keep ignoring it, you may continue walking away from the destiny that was always meant to be yours. This is not just another horoscope reading. This is a sacred call back to your center. A call that asks, why are you still dimming your own light just to make others more comfortable? Why are you carrying battles that were never yours to begin with? And most importantly, what if this moment, right here and now, is the invitation you've been waiting for? You didn't click this video by accident. You've been divinely led to this moment. The energy of this week is not subtle, Leo, in fact, it's cosmic. The alignment between the Sun, Mercury, and Uranus is activating your 12th and 4th houses, the most hidden corners of your life, where ancestral stories live, where karma is written, where silence has echoed for too long. This energy is digging up truths that were buried beneath generations of fear. It's showing you that perhaps, just perhaps, the version of you that's been living isn't the real you, but a mask created by fear, shaped by family wounds, and reinforced by a society that never understood your fire. And here's the thing, you've been walking backward away from yourself. But the universe, through this reading, is placing a mirror in front of you. It's not to punish you, but to ask with compassion, with power, will you finally listen? There's a destiny call approaching. It may be a literal phone call, a message, a synchronicity. It may be subtle, or it may shake the ground beneath you. But it will shift something inside you permanently. And once you answer it, there's no turning back. You will not be able to unknow what you discover. You will not be able to stay in the same job, the same relationship, the same identity. Because truth, once seen, cannot be unseen. In Buddhist philosophy, we learn that suffering arises when we resist impermanence, when we cling to illusions instead of embracing the natural unfolding of life. This moment, dear Leo, is about letting go of resistance. Of stepping out of the illusion. Of returning home to the fierce, loving, sovereign being you truly are. Let me take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for your presence here. Every like, every comment, every subscription brings you closer to the spiritual family we're building here at Eternal Mindfulness. Your support fuels this channel and allows us to keep delivering messages that awaken, realign, and transform. And trust me, what the universe is about to reveal in this reading, you'll want to stay with me until the very last second. Now tell me, Leo, what part of your soul guided you here today? What is it that you've been sensing quietly, persistently, that now demands to be heard? Drop a comment below and write, I'm ready to face the truth. Let this be your contract with the universe, your declaration that you are done walking away from yourself. Because today, something sacred is about to unfold. And it all begins now. There are moments in life when we begin to feel a quiet dissonance, like a low hum beneath the surface of everything we do. You may have felt it too, Leo. That subtle tug, that question that never seems to go away. Is this really the life I was meant to live? It's not always a loud question. Sometimes, it appears in the pauses between conversations, in the silence after a long day, or in the heaviness in your chest you can't quite name. And yet, that question doesn't come from nowhere. It echoes from somewhere deeper. Somewhere older. The energy we're entering now is not light. The alignment between the Moon and Pluto creates a polarity that uncovers what has been buried not just in your current experiences, but in the echoes passed down from your family line. You see, there are choices you've made that were never truly yours. Roles you stepped into before you even knew you had the right to choose. These roles were handed down like heirlooms, unquestioned, inherited, and wrapped in the illusion of duty. The Ten of Swords speaks directly to this. It does not warn of destruction, it reveals the moment just before transformation. The point where pain is not new but has finally been seen clearly for what it is. Imagine a child clothed in garments far too heavy, woven not from their own dreams, but from generations of fear, silence, and survival. That child learns early how to be what others need. They learn to adapt, to shrink, to perform. And in doing so, they forget the language of their own fire. For Leo, this is the wound that repeats. You were never meant to live under someone else's shadow. You were born to be the light. This moment asks you to sit gently with the past, not to relive it, but to recognize the stories that were never yours to carry. Some of them were stitched into you by words spoken in childhood. Others by expectations never said aloud, but always felt. This is why it matters now. Because when you don't question the source of the beliefs that shape your life, you live a story written by someone else's pen. The number 10 in numerology speaks of completion but also of beginning. It is the point at which an old cycle collapses, not as a punishment, but as an invitation. You are being asked to complete a cycle of identity that wasn't truly yours, to step out of the ancestral repetition and step into something entirely different, choice. For many of you, this means doing what has never been done in your family before, saying no, breaking silence, choosing peace over obligation. It may feel like betrayal. But in truth, it is liberation. When you begin to untangle the energy that doesn't belong to you, you return to your own frequency. And from that space, everything changes, not because life outside shifts instantly, but because you begin to recognize the power of your internal permission. No one else has to approve the life you want. You don't need evidence that it's possible. You only need to remember that you are allowed. If this resonates with you, a powerful practice is to write a letter to the past. Not from a place of blame but from clarity. Write down the roles, the beliefs, the burdens that no longer serve you. Read them aloud. Then, in a safe and sacred space, release them. Burn them, bury them, or tear them up, whatever feels symbolic. What matters is the recognition: this was never mine to hold. The colors that support you now are deep navy and amethyst. One speaks to truth, the other to the detoxification of lineage. Wear them, meditate with them, surround yourself with them as allies. And ask yourself, what part of me has been silenced and why? Let that question guide you through this doorway. Because this isn't about blaming the past. It's about choosing not to let it define you anymore. And Leo, when you decide to rise, you don't just heal yourself. You heal generations. There is a moment in every journey when something seemingly small shifts, but the ripple it creates reshapes everything. For you, Leo, that shift is arriving now, not as thunder or chaos, but as a quiet knock at the door of your awareness. A message, an offer, a chance encounter. It might look like a financial proposal or a simple invitation from someone unexpected. But what truly changes is not the world outside you, it's the way you respond to it from within. That's what the Ace of Pentacles brings. Not just opportunity, but readiness. Not just gain, but grounded awakening. You see, this is not the kind of opportunity you chase. It's the kind that appears when you've done the inner work to recognize your worth. When the soil of your life has been turned, your hands bruised from healing, and suddenly something begins to sprout. This card asks one question only: will you be open enough to receive? So many times we say we want change, but when it arrives, we doubt it. We analyze, we hesitate, we look for reasons to disqualify ourselves. But the truth is, receiving is a skill as sacred as giving. And right now, you're being asked to receive the life you've secretly prayed for. This is also where the energy of the 10th and 2nd houses is activated, where you earn and where you express your purpose. These aren't just houses of career and money, they're houses of value. What you bring to the world. How you measure your worth. And for many Leos, that worth has long been tied to performancito applause, to validation. But this week's cosmic alignment asks you to drop the performance and step into authenticity. To build your life not around what impresses others, but around what truly lights you up. Think of this like a shift in gravity. Until now, you may have felt that you had to chase what matters. That abundance was always running just a few steps ahead of you. But the law of attraction teaches us that nothing external needs to be hunted. What is meant for you arrives the moment your inner vibration matches it. That means slowing down. That means trusting that your alignment is the magnet, not your effort alone. This is where the simplest practices become the most profound. Each morning, before you reach for your phone or the world outside, place your hand over your heart and ask, what do I truly want today? Not what should I do, not what do others expect, but what does my soul hunger for? This simple act realigns you with your own center. And from that place, when the call comes, be it through a conversation, a job offer, or a gentle moment of clarity, you'll know it's meant for you. You won't doubt it, because it will feel like recognition, not persuasion. There's a reason the 3 of Cups dances beside this message. You are not meant to walk this alone. The people who are coming into your life now are not here to drain you, but to celebrate you. Not to fix you, but to reflect the part of you that already knows you're worthy. Let yourself be seen. Let yourself be supported. Connection, real connection, is a form of abundance. And yes, there's a color to carry with you now. Gold, the color of sovereign receiving. Olive green, the tone of calm, receptive power. These aren't just aesthetics. They're frequencies. When you surround yourself with what you want to feel, you begin living it from the inside out. So let me ask you, Leo, have you ever heard something, seen something, or felt something so subtle yet so unmistakably right that it changed your path forever? If so, share that with me in the comments. Because today may just be one of those moments. And if you're willing to listen, this call could change everything. Sometimes, the weight we carry isn't ours. It clings to us like inherited clothing, familiar but ill-fitting. And we wear it out of habit, out of love, out of fear. Leo, this is where your story deepens. This is the chapter where you pause to look at what you've been holding and gently ask, is this really mine? The 10 of Wands appears here not as a punishment, but as an invitation to put something down. And what's so often buried under those burdens is something sacred, space. And in that space, love waits. For many of you, the burden comes in the form of roles you never consciously chose. The perfect child who was expected to shine but never crack. The partner who gives endlessly, hoping to earn presents in return. The sibling who carries the silence of the entire family. These roles are heavy not just because they demand so much but because they suppress the very essence of who you are. And when you live in roles, you don't live in relationship. You perform love, but you never feel it. That's why the Two of Cups doesn't just represent romantic love, it represents a mirror. A soul-level connection that sees you, not the version you present. But here's the catch. Love cannot walk through a door that is blocked by obligation. Love, the kind that heals and expands you, needs breath. It needs access to the real you, not the version of you hidden beneath responsibility. Astrologically, Saturn's movement through your 8th house is not a punishment, it's a restructuring. The 8th house governs the hidden layers, shared energy, emotional intimacy, and yes, control. And Saturn's job here is to hold up the mirror and ask, where are you afraid to let someone in, and why? Sometimes, we hold on to control not because we don't want love but because we've never seen love that didn't demand self-erasure. This transit teaches you to open, but without collapsing. To share, but without disappearing. That balance is everything. This is where a small but powerful practice can shift your energy. Sit down with paper and a quiet heart. Write a letter to each identity you've been forced to wear, the fixer, the pleaser, the protector. Speak to them with gratitude, not blame. Thank them for the protection they once offered. And then, in your own words, return them. Fold the letters. Burn them, bury them, or simply release them. It is not the ritual that changes everything, it is the clarity. And clarity is freedom. The number 2, in numerology, represents union, partnership, harmony. But it also represents choice. The choice to be in connection that nourishes instead of depletes. The choice to no longer carry what isolates you from intimacy. That's the gift of the Two of Cups when paired with this moment, the reminder that the right love doesn't demand you carry it, it walks beside you. Colors are messengers too. Soft peach tones open the heart without exposing it. They encourage tenderness, first toward yourself. Earthy browns reconnect you to your center, your inner yes and no, so you don't get swept into the needs of others before remembering your own. Let these colors into your wardrobe, your space, your daily awareness. Let them be quiet allies. There is a kind of wisdom that comes from letting go, not as a form of loss, but as a form of returning. Returning to what matters. Returning to who you were before you believed that love had to be earned. You don't have to prove your worth anymore, Leo. You only have to make room for what's already waiting to love you as you are. There comes a moment when silence becomes too loud to bear. Not because others have raised their voices, but because the voice within you has grown restless. That voice, steady, ancient, unwavering, has waited patiently for you to stop shrinking in the name of peace. And now, Leo, it refuses to wait any longer. You've carried the weight of diplomacy, of protecting other people's comfort, for so long that you may have forgotten what your own truth even sounds like. But that truth has a shape. It has a sharpness. And today, it's ready to be spoken. The appearance of the Justice card alongside the Ace of Swords is no coincidence. These two forces combine to offer clarity without cruelty, and power without aggression. Justice reminds you that balance doesn't mean avoiding conflict, it means living in alignment. And the Ace of Swords? It arrives like a breath of cold, clean air after too long beneath the surface. It pierces through the fog, not to wound, but to reveal. Together, these energies call you to draw a line not in anger, but in integrity. There's a kind of exhaustion that comes from pretending. Pretending you're okay with what you're not. Pretending you don't see the red flags. Pretending that silence will somehow protect love. But love built on suppression is not love. It is obligation masquerading as connection. And eventually, pretending becomes a slow unraveling of energy, of desire, of self. Like a thread pulled too tight. You hold everything together, hoping it doesn't break. But what if the thing that needs to break isn't you but the lie you've been living? This week's solar trine with Uranus is stirring the fire in your bones. It's not a reckless rebellion, it's a sacred refusal to stay hidden. Uranus urges you to embrace the electric jolt of liberation. The part of you that has long whispered, "There has to be more than this," is no longer a whisper. It's a pulse, a frequency. And the more you resist it, the more dissonance you'll feel. So don't resist. Let truth rise, not as a weapon but as a bridge. The bridge back to yourself. When you begin to set boundaries, true boundaries rooted in self-respect, not pushing people away. You're inviting only those who can meet you with depth and honesty to come closer. The law of attraction mirrors this precisely. When you define what is no longer acceptable, you magnetize what is. Limits made in love are not barriers, they're invitations. They say, "This is how to meet me in truth. This is where I begin." There's an image I want you to hold close, a person pressing their palms against a bleeding wound, not wanting others to see, not wanting to be a burden. But in hiding it, they never stop the bleeding. And slowly, silently, they fade. You are not here to fade, Leo. You are here to blaze. To be visible. To speak what is true even if your voice shakes. Because your voice is sacred. And it's time the world heard it. Let yourself be held by the simplicity of two colors, white, for clarity and peace. Red ruby, for courage and rooted power. These colors are not just seen, they are felt. Surround yourself with them when you speak your truth. Wear them when you feel unsure. Let them become extensions of your decision to live from the center of who you are, not the edges others have defined for you. And if this resonates, ask yourself quietly, where have I been pretending? What truth have I not dared to speak? You are not here to maintain the illusion. You are here to live in truth, and that truth is the beginning of everything real. There is something breathtakingly sacred about a new beginning, not because it is flawless, but because it is fully yours. After the weight of pretending, the ache of carrying what isn't yours, and the courage it took to finally speak your truth, you now arrive at the threshold of something both terrifying and electrifying: freedom. This is the moment the fool steps forward, not as someone naive, but as someone unburdened. Someone who has chosen to begin again, not because the past didn't matter, but because it no longer defines them. Leo, this is where your story transforms from surviving to living. The Fool, the Ace of Wands, and the World don't simply mark a fresh chapter, they mark the end of an entire volume and the audacity to write the next one with your own pen. It is no longer about proving your light to anyone. You've done the proving. You've done the pleasing. Now it's about being. Being without shame. Being without apology. Being without waiting for permission that was never yours to need. When Jupiter, the planet of wisdom and expansion, activates your 9th house, everything within you longs to stretch, to travel farther, to learn deeper, to experience more fully. This is not just about literal journeys like a new job, a book, a business, or a passport stamp, although it may be. It's about giving yourself the freedom to think differently, to believe that life can unfold in bigger, more joyful ways than you've previously allowed. It's not a leap into the unknown as much as a return to what has always whispered beneath your skin. There's more for you. And it's okay to want it. This is why the Ace of Wands glows so fiercely in this part of the reading. It represents a spark, yes, but more importantly, it represents permission. Permission to create. To try. To initiate something without needing it to be perfect. This is the fire that comes from within, not the fire that begs to be seen. It's yours to carry forward, and only you can decide how brightly it will burn. The work here, if you're willing to take it on, is not about hustle, it's about alignment. A simple but powerful practice is to make a list titled, I will no longer, and let the truth flow. I will no longer shrink to be chosen. I will no longer silence myself to make others comfortable. I will no longer live as a version of myself that only exists to be admired. These declarations are not petty. They are sacred boundaries between your past and your becoming. And alongside them, a new affirmation to guide you. I no longer walk against my own light, I am returning home. Speak it. Write it. Let it settle in your body. Because home is not a place you arrive, it's a state of being that you reclaim every time you stop betraying your truth. Let the colors of this chapter support your integration. Golden orange awakens your vitality and stirs creative courage. It speaks to the part of you that's ready to rise, not for show, but for self. Milk white soothes your transition, reminding you that newness doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. It can be soft. It can be quiet. And still, it can change everything. So I invite you to pause, right here, and ask yourself, if you were no longer afraid of being wrong, what would you try this month? If you didn't need certainty, only courage, what would you give yourself permission to pursue? These questions are not theoretical. They are keys. And your hands are ready. This is the rebirth. Not of someone new, but of someone true. And you, Leo, are no longer walking in reverse. You are finally moving in the direction of your own becoming. And so here we are, Leo, standing at the end of one path, and the beginning of another. But this isn't the kind of ending that closes you in. It's the kind that opens you up. Not because something outside has changed, but because you have. You are no longer the person who needed to be chosen to feel worthy, no longer the one who had to carry everyone else's silence to feel needed. You are no longer walking in reverse. You are, finally, coming home to yourself. Throughout this reading, we've uncovered the weight you've been carrying that never belonged to you, the truth that's been longing to be spoken, the love that couldn't find its way in because there was no room, and now, the spark of your next chapter, fully lit. The cards have not shown a passive fate. They have shown a call. One you have the choice to answer. The Sun and the Empress remind us that your light was never meant to be hidden, and your power was never meant to be tamed. You carry the capacity to create a new world from within, starting with the moment you decide to live as who you truly are, rather than who the world conditioned you to be. And that decision doesn't require perfection. It only requires presence. The willingness to say, I choose me now. So I ask you, what part of your life is still waiting for your permission to change? What dream have you kept in a corner, just in case no one approved? And more importantly, what would your life look like if you stopped waiting? These questions are not meant to overwhelm you. They're meant to guide you, to inspire you, to remind you that your path doesn't begin when someone else opens a door. It begins the moment you decide to stop standing outside of your own life. Maybe this video was the mirror you didn't know you needed. Or maybe it was the whisper you've ignored for too long, finally spoken aloud. Either way, I hope you feel one thing clearly: you're not alone. Your experience matters. Your voice is worthy. And your transformation is already unfolding. You don't have to chase it, you just have to stop running from it. If this message has stirred something inside you, if even one moment made you pause, reflect, or feel seen, I invite you to share that with me. Tell me in the comments, I'm no longer walking backward, I've received my destiny's call. Let that be your first act of reclamation. Say it, not for me, but for you. For the part of you that's been waiting to be witnessed. Let me also take a moment to offer my heartfelt gratitude. Your time here is not taken for granted. Every like, every comment, every subscription helps this channel grow, not for fame, but for purpose. Eternal mindfulness exists to bring these messages of transformation to those ready to hear them. And your presence here proves you're one of them. So if this video supported you, even in a small way, consider subscribing, liking, and sharing it with someone who may also need to hear that they're allowed to begin again. Your voice, your energy, your healing, it all matters. And now, Leo, as you walk back into the world, remember, the path ahead isn't something to fear. It's something you're meant to create. You're not waiting for life to happen to you anymore. You are happening to life. The door is open. The light is on. And the choice is entirely yours.